The house still smelled like her, even after 10 months. Lavender detergent, lemon soap, and that faint trace of her rose lotion that lingered in the hallway no matter how many times I dusted. I used to complain about that scent, said it made the place smell like a florist backroom. Now I'd give anything to breathe it again, fresh from her skin. Eleanor died in late February, when the snow was still thick on the roof and the furnace rattled like it was grieving too. 47 years of marriage, gone in a single quiet morning. She was drinking her tea when it happened, sitting by the kitchen window, watching the cardinals at the feeder. I was upstairs changing a light bulb. I still hate myself for that. The absurdity of it. She was leaving this world, and I was standing on a stepladder holding a 60-watt bulb. After the funeral, people came for a week or two. Pies, casseroles, polite condolences that sounded like weather reports. Then everyone stopped coming, except Alex. My son was always punctual even in grief. He visited every Sunday afternoon at 4:00, stayed exactly 1 hour, and always left saying the same thing. You should think about moving, Dad. The first time I laughed. The fifth time, I realized he wasn't joking. It was late April when he came with his proposal. He parked his shiny black Tesla at the curb, the one with the vanity plate that said Alexis wins, a joke I never found funny. He brought coffee, half-sweet oat milk latte for himself, black drip for me, as if that made the conversation easier to swallow. Dad, he began, taking off his coat like a lawyer about to present evidence. I've been looking at your expenses. I set my cup down. My expenses? You're paying nearly $9,000 a year in property tax, another $3,000 for maintenance. The roof, the lawn care, snow removal. It's a lot for one person, don't you think? I've managed fine for 40 years. He nodded like a doctor humoring a patient. But it's not sustainable. This house is worth at least $700,000. You could sell, invest, and live comfortably for the rest of your life. I am living comfortably, I said. Dad, he sighed. You're alone. The place is too big. You don't need that much space. I looked around the kitchen. The oak cabinets Eleanor had painted cream. Her ceramic rooster on the windowsill. The dent in the wooden table where she'd once dropped a mixing bowl. That space, I said slowly, isn't empty, Alex. It's filled with memories. He gave a tight smile. Memories don't pay heating bills. There was a time I might have snapped at him, but I didn't. I just nodded and said I'd think about it. He looked relieved, which told me he'd been rehearsing this conversation for weeks. When he left, he hugged me, quick, efficient, emotionless. Through the window, I watched him drive away, my reflection floating ghost-like in the glass beside his departing car. I whispered, "You don't need that much space," just to hear how it sounded from my mouth. It didn't sound like love. It sounded like eviction. Summer came. Hot, slow, quiet. I started going through closets. At first, I told myself it was to clean, not to prepare. But every box I packed was a confession I wasn't ready to make. Eleanor's clothes still smelled faintly of her perfume. I folded each dress carefully, talking to her under my breath. You'd laugh at him, I said one afternoon, stacking sweaters. All grown up and still measuring life in square footage. I found her recipe cards, the one with her lemon cake written in faded ink. I sat on the floor and cried for the first time in months, holding that card like it could bring her back. That night I called Alex. If I were to sell, I said, what would you suggest? He didn't even hide his satisfaction. I've already talked to a realtor, a friend of mine, Jamie Torres. She could handle everything discreetly. No stress. He texted me her number before we hung up. That was the moment I realized I wasn't part of the plan. I was the plan. Jamie arrived 2 days later, mid-30s, confident, polite. She called me Mr. Ellison at first, until I insisted she use Tom. She walked through the house, clicking her pen, complimenting the bones and the potential. Her eyes saw square footage. Mine saw Christmas mornings and Eleanor's laughter. Alex mentioned we'd like to list it quickly, she said, jotting notes. We'd like to, not you'd like to. I felt something cold twist in my gut. Do you know who the buyers are? I asked. Probably investors. There's a company, Alder and Finch Properties, interested in family homes in this area. A company, not a family. How soon? 2 weeks. Maybe 3. She smiled as if that were mercy. That night, Alex called. You talked to Jamie? Yes. She's good, right? She's fast, I said. That's the same thing. No, I thought. Fast is what happens when someone's rushing you out the door. 2 days later, I went up to the attic to find the Christmas decorations. Eleanor's hand-painted ornaments, her porcelain angels. The attic was stuffy, lit by a single bulb that flickered like a weak heartbeat. I found a cardboard box labeled Alex College. Inside were his old report cards, baseball trophies, and a photo album. I sat cross-legged on the floor and flipped through the pages. There he was at age 8, missing teeth and beaming, holding a fish nearly as big as his arm. At 17, awkward in his prom tuxedo. At 25, arm around his new wife, Melissa. That was before he started calling her Mel in that curt tone that stripped the affection from her name. They divorced 4 years ago. I liked her. She used to bring Eleanor tulips every Sunday. After the separation, she called me twice, once to check on Eleanor's health, once after the funeral. I hadn't heard from her since. I stared at that photo of the two of them, young, hopeful, unbroken. Then I did something strange. I took the picture downstairs and set it on the mantel. I didn't know why at the time. Later, I'd realize it was the first move of my quiet rebellion. The offer came faster than expected. $705,000 all cash. Jamie said over the phone. They're eager to close. Who's the buyer? I asked. An LLC, as I mentioned, Alder and Finch. Does my son work with them? There was a pause. I can't disclose that, Mr. Ellison. That told me everything. Alex arrived the next day with his bright, convincing smile. Good news, Dad. They accepted. I'll handle the transfer paperwork. All you need to do is sign. He spread the papers across the kitchen table. His voice was calm, practiced. The proceeds will go into your new account. I already set it up. You set it up, I repeated, without asking. He looked impatient. Dad, I'm trying to help. You're not exactly in the best position to manage large sums. I managed to raise you, I said. That took more skill than any investment. He laughed, not kindly. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I read the papers, line by line. He fidgeted. Then, halfway through, I saw something. A clause naming him as financial custodian for my new account. Alex, I said quietly, you do realize this gives you access to my money? Only to help with logistics. You don't need to worry about. I'm not worried, I said and slid the papers back. I'm refusing. He blinked. What? I'm not signing. He stared at me, the way people stare at traffic accidents. Disbelief followed by anger. Dad, be reasonable. You're 75 alone. This house is falling apart. Reasonable, I interrupted. Like selling my wife's roses for a parking lot? His face hardened. You're being emotional. I buried my wife 6 months ago, I said. You bet I'm emotional. He left without another word. The sound of his car door slamming echoed through the quiet house like a gunshot. 2 weeks passed. Silence from Alex. Then one afternoon the phone rang. A familiar voice, soft and hesitant. Mr. Ellison? It's Melissa. I almost didn't recognize her voice. I hope this isn't strange, she said. I was going through some papers and found something addressed you. From Eleanor. It's dated 2 years ago. My heart skipped. A letter? Yes. She must have given it to me by mistake after that garden party. I thought you should have it. She offered to bring it by that evening. When she arrived, I barely recognized her. Older, maybe a little sadder, but steady. She handed me an envelope, cream-colored, with Eleanor's handwriting on it. I didn't open it right away. Instead, we sat in the kitchen with tea. She looked around, smiling faintly. It hasn't changed at all, she said. Neither have I replied, though some people seem to think I should. She tilted her head. You mean Alex? I sighed. You heard? She nodded. He mentioned he was helping you downsize. That's his word for it, helping people make decisions they don't want to make. We both laughed softly, a sad, knowing sound. Then I opened the letter. Eleanor's handwriting wavered, but her words were clear. If I'm gone first, promise me one thing. Don't let him take the house. It's where we lived our whole lives. Keep it, or give it to someone who'll love it the way we did. I stared at the page until my vision blurred. When I looked up, Melissa's eyes were wet too. She said quietly, she always knew him better than he realized. That night I couldn't sleep. Eleanor's letter burned in my mind. By dawn I'd made up my mind. I went to the bank, withdrew the full balance from the joint account Alex had created, and moved it into a separate trust. Then I called my lawyer, an old colleague named Robert who still owed me for fixing his roof in 1999. I need to sell my house, I told him. To whom? To someone I can trust. He chuckled. That's a short list. I smiled faintly. Includes my daughter-in-law. By the end of the week, the papers were ready. The sale price, $1, the condition. Permanent occupancy for me until death. Melissa insisted on paying full value, but I refused. Eleanor wouldn't want her house turned into a transaction, I said. She'd want it loved. Melissa blinked back tears. Then I'll love it for both of you. When we signed the deed, I felt something lift off my chest, like the house itself had exhaled. Alex arrived 2 days later unannounced. He must have heard through the realtor network. He came storming through the front door. What the hell, Dad? You sold the house. Yes, I said, pouring coffee. I took your advice. I didn't need that much space. Then why is Melissa's car in the driveway? I didn't answer. The sound of her footsteps came from the hallway. She appeared in jeans and a soft blue sweater, calm and poised. Morning, Alex, she said. He went pale. You've got to be kidding me. I'm not, she said. It's my house now. His eyes darted to me. Tell me this is a joke. I handed him the signed deed. You said I should sell? Son. You just never specified to whom. He read it twice before speaking. You sold it to my ex-wife. She offered a fair deal, I said. And unlike you, she didn't treat me like an investment opportunity. He started to laugh, that nervous, incredulous laugh people use before they start shouting. You're insane, Dad. This is petty. You don't know what you've done. Oh, I know, I said. I've kept a promise to your mother. Melissa stepped forward. Alex, maybe you should go. He turned on her. You can't live here. This was supposed to be yours, she interrupted. It never was. He stared at us both, realization dawning like a storm. Then he left, slamming the door so hard that one of Eleanor's framed photos rattled on the wall. Melissa reached up and steadied it. He'll cool off, she said softly. I'm not counting on it, I replied. But I've learned to live without the sound of his approval. Autumn arrived early that year. The house felt alive again. Melissa planted new flowers by the porch, the kind Eleanor used to love, lilacs, petunias, daisies. She kept the kitchen exactly as it was, even the rooster on the windowsill. Sometimes she joined me for tea in the evenings, and we talked about Eleanor, about regret, forgiveness, and the strange ways families fall apart and come back together through unexpected doors. Once she asked, Do you think he'll ever forgive us? I smiled. If he does, it'll be for himself, not for us. We never discussed it again. 3 months later, Alex came back. It was a gray November morning. I was raking leaves when his car stopped at the curb. He stepped out slowly this time. No confidence, no briefcase, no performance. Dad, he said quietly, can we talk? I nodded toward the porch. We sat with steaming mugs of coffee. He stared at his hands. I was angry, he said. Still, I guess. But I get it now. You do. He shrugged. You love this place. Mom did too. I thought selling it would help you move on. I didn't realize it was all you had left. I didn't speak. Sometimes silence is the only honest reply. Then he looked up and saw Melissa watching from the window. His expression softened. Or maybe it broke. She taking good care of you? He asked. She's taking good care of the house, I said. The rest I can manage. He nodded, stood, hesitated. If you ever want to, visit. Son, I said gently, you're welcome anytime. Just knock first. He smiled, faint, reluctant, but real. Then he walked to his car, hands in pockets, leaving footprints on the frosted grass. That evening I sat on the porch alone, watching the first snow of winter drift down across the garden. The world looked clean again, like forgiveness laid itself gently over everything. Through the window, I could see Melissa lighting a candle by the photograph of Eleanor. The flame flickered, steady and warm. The house no longer felt too big. It felt right size for memories, for peace, for quiet endurance. My phone buzzed. A text from Alex. "I'm glad you're okay, Dad. Tell her I said hi." I typed back, "She knows." Then I set the phone down and closed my eyes. Some losses hollow you out. Others make room for light. Eleanor used to say that grief is just love with nowhere to go. Tonight, it had a home again. He laughed when I said I was moving. He stopped laughing when she moved in. And somewhere between those two moments, I stopped grieving and started living again.